I've realized that most people spend their whole entire life becoming who the world told them to be. And then one day they wake up and realize that they never became who God created them to be. The death is really, if you look at it, it's a false identity, right? This weekend's about sharing the death of man's plans and the rising again of the real you. True wealth is not just about money. The true wealth is becoming fully aligned with who God created you to be. And that is what I call the 4 levels of wealth. All right, let's get going. So this is going to be fun, guys. I've realized that most people spend their whole entire life becoming who the world told them to be. And then one day they wake up and realize that they never became who God created them to be. This is not about just God. This is about whatever it is that you believe, creation, universe, God, whatever it is. I am not here to change your belief in what you believe. I believe that there is a ultimate creator, my God, and that is what I am going to reference, creation. And this is Easter weekend in terms of this weekend of resurrection, the death and resurrection of Jesus Christ. But the death is really, if you look at it, it's a false identity, right? This weekend's about sharing the death of man's plans and the rising again of the real you, of the real you. Because true wealth is not just about money. The true wealth is becoming fully aligned with who God created you to be. And that is what I call the 4 levels of wealth. So I just wanted to welcome you today. Welcome everyone. I am excited to be here with you today. Today we're going to share the 4 levels of wealth. The first 2 levels is the consumer level. The first 2 levels are the consumer level. And then the level 3 and 4, this is the creator level. This is where creation happens. And I believe that this is one of the most important messages I can share with you because most people think that wealth is only about money. It's not. It's about results. Money is a result. That's all it is. Wealth is a level of being. Wealth is a level of value. Wealth is a level of alignment with your assignment. And if you don't understand these 4 levels, you can spend your whole life working hard and still never feel free. I see it over and over and over again. So this weekend, we celebrate the death and the rise again of Jesus Christ. And I think that message is bigger than religion. It is. Just think of it as bigger than religion just for a moment, because it is a pattern. It is a principle. Something has to die in order for something greater again can live. The old identity, it has to die. The old identity has to die so that the false beliefs also have to die. The life built on other people's expectations has to die. Bronnie Ware wrote a book called The Top 5 Regrets of the Dying. And the number 1 regret of the dying, she's a hospice that helped people transition during during death. And the number 1 regret is that I wish I had lived a life true to myself, not a life that others expected of me. So the God-given version of you can rise, right? You have to let old version of you, your identity, your false beliefs, others' expectations of you, that has to die. Because a lot of people are alive physically, but dead spiritually, dead creativity, dead emotionally, and ultimately, honestly, dead financially. Why? Because they're living according to man's plans, not God's plans, right? Bronnie Ware, in her book, Regrets of the Dying, a lot of people carry this. That's the number 1 regret. They did not live true to themselves. They lived according to what others expected of them, and that is heavy. So think about that. It is heavy. How heavy has it been for you. I know at one point in my life, for several years, it was really, 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 really heavy for me. You see, these people got to the end of life and realized I built this life I was told to build, but not the life I was created to build. I live life I was told to build, not a life I was created to live. Right? That is man's plans. Man's plan says go to school. Right? I remember I realized this in the third grade. Third grade question was asked of me, who do you want to be when you grow up? That is man's plans. So you choose, right? I remember when they asked me that question. They gave me a box, and I opened up that box, and I laid all the cards in front of me as a in the third grade, right? And I'm looking, and 8 years old, I'm looking at these set of cards, and it's got doctor, dentist, ambulance, driver, politician, fireman, all of these things, police officer, and I saw engineer, right? Oh, I want to be an engineer. See, when you choose that identity based on that question, then you essentially are in man's plans. Then this box is created for you, and you now start to live inside of this box, and you start being conditioned to say, hey, if you want to get ahead, think outside the box. Well, what if there's no box? The box was created because that question was asked, who do you want to be when you grow up? And then you choose that profession. And then you now are in man's plans, and your whole job now, your whole purpose becomes, I need to become this identity that I chose. So I chose engineer. So what do? You go to school, right? You go to school, and then you get an education, get into debt, and then you graduate, get a certificate. You're proud, right? Walking across the stage, got your graduation hat on, the gown on, and you got your, certificate in your hand, right? And you go to work, you go to find a job, you build a career, you go to school for 25, 30 years based on your profession, sometimes even longer than that. And then you go to work, and you work for another 35, 40 years. And then you live free the rest of your life for the last 10 or 15 years of your life, hoping that nothing happens and hoping that everything goes according to plan. That's man's plans. So think about that as math, just as a simple math equation of addition. You go to school for, let's say, 25 years, which is basically what I did, about 25 years. And then I'm going to work for another 40 years till I'm 65. And then I graduate, and then I retire happy, right? I retired. And then I'll spend the last 10 or 15 years of my life free. That equation, that math has problems. My dad did that. He spent his life, about 25 years or so, learning, educating himself. He worked for 40 years, and he retired 65. And he lived the last of his life 11 years. He passed away 11 years, which is about 3 years ago. So that, and quite honestly, when he retired with more time than he did in money. He retired broke. So same thing with my mom. Combined, they worked so hard for most of their life, being responsible, living according to what others expected them to be and do. And they retired both with more time than they actually had money, right? So that is not freedom. That is, I call, delayed living. That is delayed living. That is not design. That is default living according to man's plans versus God's plans. Man's plans ask, right, who do you want to be? Just that identity. That's not you, right? That's not you. You want to be an engineer. You want to be a doctor. You want to be all of that stuff. Because I did it. I see so many people doing it, did it while I was growing up, and I still see people doing it now. But God's plans is different. Why? God's plans is different. God is the source, the creator. There's an ultimate creator. We are the resource, but most people don't see themselves as the resource. That God put all these things in us, right? Knowledge, expertise, passions, things that we know, things that we love, so many things that we can bring to the world. If you look at God, God is the creator. That's why he's at the third and fourth levels. He's the creator, and we are the creation. God puts gifts, superpowers, experiences, wisdom, and assignments inside of us. Why? so we can create, so we can create value, so we can create assets, so we can solve problems, so we can serve people, so that we can live in alignment with our assignment. Hear me, my friends. Income. When you are a creator, you're stepping the role of a creator. You then are, if you see yourself as the resources, because that's really what wealth is. Wealth is just creating value for someone other than yourself. And when you create value, those valuable things that you create are because they're your assets. And income always follows assets. The more value that you create, the more wealth that you actually had. And not just financial wealth, fulfillment wealth as well. Freedom. The more value, the asset, the more wealth it creates. So when you live according to God's plans, you stop asking, what should I do? And you start asking, what did God put inside me that is meant to bless others? So I'm going to break down the 4 levels of wealth for you right now. And the very first level is muscle. Again, the first 2 levels are consumer levels. Third, fourth level is creator levels. Level 1 is muscle. Hello, C. Savan here. Before we dive into the video, I just wanted to really first off say thank you for being here. And because you're actually here, I'm going to invite you to attend our Dream Life, Dream Business Challenge. It's a challenge where we're going to walk you through how to live your dream life, how to love your dream business, build a business that you're absolutely in love with, waking up every single day doing what you know and love. I would love to have you to do 3 things. One is to like this video and comment your biggest takeaways, and then most importantly, subscribe so that when we drop a new training for you, you can actually be alerted as well. So again, I really appreciate you for being here, and subscribing to our channel is free, and we promise you we will not let you down with our content. So again, appreciate you being here. Thank you very, very much. Let's dive right into the video. Level 1 is muscle. This is implementation. This is where things need to get done, and you are doing it. You're using muscle to implement. You're using muscle for labor. You're using muscle for doing. This is where most people live. Most people live here. You get paid because you do the work. You trade time for money. You use energy. You use effort. You use action, right? There's nothing wrong with muscle. Muscle matters. Things need to get done. But muscle is the lowest level of wealth because it depends on your presence. If you stop, the income stops. If you get tired, production drops. If you disappear, value drops. At the muscle level, you are the worker. You are the worker. This is where people live exhausted, busy, overwhelmed, stuck, right? Working hard, but not necessarily building wealth, right? Muscle can make you money, but muscle alone would not make you free. My parents worked 69 years combined. They generated a total of $2.4 million. But the problem is it took them 69 years to actually make it. My dad worked for his company for 36 years, my mom for 33 years, just retired to have more time than they actually did for money. And I realized something with muscle, wealth, money. It's not the amount of money that you make. It's about the speed in which you make it so you have more time to actually enjoy it. That's muscle. So it's the lowest level of wealth creation. Level 2 is management. Now this, you go into delegation. Management is all about delegation. It's things getting done, and majority of the implementation that needs to get done is not done by you because you're now managing other people. You're still on the consumption level, at the consumer level, things are getting done and you're leveraging people, which is better. And as you move up into management, you generally get paid a little bit more. That's what happened to me. After about 10 years working in corporate America, I started at the age of 16 when I was in high school. They had a work release program, and I would leave school half day to go work. So I started working at pretty young. I'd say up to about 26, 25. Yeah, about 26 years old. I was in muscle implementation, working hard, had the most amount of energy, right? Because I was like 16 to 26. And right around 26 to 29, 3 years, I moved into management where I was able to qualify, right? And had experiences, had earned to become management. So I moved up to level 2, right? Started delegating, started things getting done, but I was the one who manages people to actually do them, right? This is where you stop doing everything yourself. This is where you realize I should not be the only one carrying the vision, right? At this level, you start leveraging people, you start building teams, you start handling things off, you start creating capacity, right, for yourself. But now you're not just using your hands, you're multiplying your hands. That's really what this level is, right? This is a higher level of wealth for sure. Why? Because delegation creates scale, delegation creates space, delegation creates freedom. But a lot of people never get here. A lot of people never get to this level because they are addicted to control. They're used to, that saying, right? If you want something, you got to work for it. You got to work hard for it. So that's why most people don't get to this level, but some do, right? They say that nobody can do it all, do it like me, right? That's why they never get to this level. It's just faster if I do it myself. What if they mess up, right? If you want things done perfectly, it's got to be done by me. And that right there is what keeps people broke. That's what keeps people at level 1, because when you refuse to delegate, you choose to stay small. If you have to do it all, you can't have it all. That's management level. It's better than level 1, but that is still a consumption level because you're really not stepping into the creator level, which is what level 3 is about. Level 3 is about mind. This is the education level. Third level is about extracting what you know, what you're an expert at, what people come to you for advice, for answers, for problems that they need solving, right? This is where your knowledge starts creating you wealth. This is why you start becoming a creator at the third level. This is where your thinking creates value. This is where your ideas solve problems. At the mind level, people will pay you because you know something valuable. You know something that they need to know. You learned something, you lived through something, you overcame something, you understand something. You now are no longer just paid for doing. You are paid for knowing. And that's powerful. That's powerful because knowledge can compress time. Knowledge can remove pain. Knowledge can produce results faster. That's why people invest in coaching. That's why people invest in consulting. That's why people purchase courses. That's why people purchase done for you services. So things that get done for them faster, they're paying for speed, right? Because they're not just buying information, they're buying clarity, they're buying speed, they're buying certainty. The person who knows how will always outgrow the person who only works hard. That's the truth. But this level is also a risky level. It's not just a rewarding level. It's also a risky level, not just a rewarding level. Let me share with you some examples of this. When you know something that somebody else wants to know, for sure, you could turn that into a business. And it can be very rewarding because you're sharing your knowledge, you're sharing your expertise, you're selling the answers, you're solving problems, for sure. But if you really think about that, there's a lot more than just knowing, right? If you look at statistically, the reason why I want to bring up risk at this level is most businesses actually fail in the first year, 50%. By year 5, upwards about 80% have failed. If they go as long as 10 plus years, up to 96% of businesses fail. There's only 4 that actually still survive. And as a matter of fact, it's not that they're profitable either. They're not, right? Some of them are, some are, but they at least survive, right? So it's also risky as well because you are taking something that you know, which is great. It's a creator level, right? You're creating, you turn into an offer, a product, a service, you sell it, and you can make money at it. It's risky because it's really not who you are yet. You're still not in alignment with your assignment. That's why it could also be risky because all you're doing is you're turning into a product, service, or a business, right? And it's selling what you know. That's it. Okay. But the fourth level and the third level is where wealth starts to it does begin there, right? But it also can be risky as well. It could be very rewarding as well, but it also can be risky. So, but the fourth level of wealth building, this is where wealth lives. This is where everybody who I've seen at this level builds wealth and stays wealthy as well. I'll share something before I go to the fourth level. The third level, where you extract what you know, as a good example, risky. I was actually at that level at one time as well in 2017. I learned something. It was in my head, right? I got into real estate, and man, I was super excited because I learned this new thing, this new asset class, and I turned it into a business, right? I started investing in real estate. And the reason why it also could be risky is because it's not who you are, it's what you know only, right? So, and I went into real estate and I made some aggressive decisions, and we ended up losing over $5 million in losses, right? So that's why it could also be risky, right? It could be rewarding as well. I could have flipped it the other side and made 5 million or $10 million, right? But I lost $5 million. And I've seen people do this over and over again, but I also see people get really wealthy at this level as well, right? Because it's just what you know. But I think where most people I've seen that is consistently wealthy, they moved up to level 4, which is mastery. Mastery is about transformation. Mastery is about transformation. And if you look at mastery, mastery is where um, true wealth really lives. Why? Because mastery is when you do something without using unconscious resources. That is what mastery is. You just show up. You're doing what you know, what you love, who you are. You're in line with your purpose, all right? What God created you to be. It became part of you. It became you. It's embodied. It's natural. It's integrated, right? That's mastery. You're not forcing it. You're not faking it. You're not just trying to remember how to do it. You have become it. That is mastery. And when you reach mastery, you can really package that into an offer, a product or service, into a framework, into a process, into intellectual property. That is your IP, into transformation for other people. Hear this, my friends. At the muscle level, you sell effort. At the management level, you leverage effort. At the mind level, you teach knowledge. But at mastery level, you create transformation. If you can create transformation, the more transformation you can create, the more wealth you will actually have. And transformation is the highest value in the marketplace, without a doubt. People don't pay the most for information, especially in today's day and age, right? Trying to build wealth with just what you know, just with mind, right, is not good enough. As a matter of fact, information is probably the cheapest it's ever been right now, and it's going to get cheaper with AI and everything that's happening, right? People pay most for transformation, right? People pay most for transformation, right? So what is transformation? Mastery is where you live true to yourself, because mastery is usually connected to your God-given design. It's a thing you do naturally. It's a thing you see clearly. It's a thing you carry deeply. It's a thing that creates change in others almost effortlessly. And most people overlook it because it feels too natural to them, right? It sounds too natural to them. But that's the clue. The thing that feels most natural to you is the most valuable thing about to others, right? That gift, that superpower, that way of thinking, that way you solve, that way you lead, the way you communicate, the way you discern your essence, your teaching, your sharing from your essence. That's not random. That is divine design. And when you truly master that and you turn it into an asset, wealth always follows. Income always follows assets, always follows assets. Because again, income always follows assets, because the more value they create in the marketplace, assets, the more valuable you are, your offers are, the more wealth, the more valuable the wealth, right? And value is created when you master and solve real problems for real people, right? So the big framework, if you really think about it, muscle says I work, management says you work, mind says I know, master says I transform, right? I transform. And the higher you go, the less you are paid, right, for effort, and the more you are paid for value. The higher you go, the less you're paid for effort, and the more you're actually paid for value. That is the shift. The goal is not to work harder forever. The goal is not to stay trapped in implementation forever. The goal is to rise from labor to leverage to learning to legacy. And that is why I believe this message is perfect for Easter weekend, because resurrection requires death first. It requires death of levels 1 and 2 for sure. even now the third level and moving up to the fourth level, resurrecting the fourth level. Because the muscle only identity has to die. The people pleasing identity has to die. The false identity built on others people's expectations has to die. The box has to die. The fear has to die. The old version of you has to die so that the real version of you can rise. So you're called to rise, that you can rise, so that your gifts can rise, so that your alignment in you can rise, so that the wealth in you can rise. Not wealthy only in money, but wealthy in peace, wealthy in purpose, wealthy in freedom, wealthy in alignment, wealthy in alignment. So what is mastery? So let's look at that. There are 7 things, 7 sciences of mastery. First is proficiency, what you know and do best. Proficiency. People come to it, they ask you questions all the time about it. You are so proficient at it. You don't have to think about it. It just flows right through you. Second is passion. This is what you love the most. Not only you sharing it from here, but you're sharing it from your heart, right? It just flows out of you naturally. You love it so much. Third is purpose. This is who you are and why it matters, right? Your why, turn it into an offer or a product. People don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. This is your message to the world. That's purpose. Fourth is people. You're clear on who you are actually called to serve. Problem, what pain you actually solve. Payoff, what transformation do you help those who you're called to serve get? And then process, your framework, your method, how you help people get to their transformation. That is mastery. Proficiency, passion, purpose, people, problem, payoff, and process. You embody all of that. So I want you to, I want to challenge you today. Ask yourself, am I living by man's plans or God's plans? And am I building a life based on expectations or based on assignment? Am I stuck in muscle or am I growing in mastery? Am I only working for income or am I building assets from gifts? Because the life you want will not come from becoming more of what the world expects of you. It will come from becoming more of who God actually created to you. So here's the practical part. Here's the application. Here's your takeaway from this. If you want to move toward mastery, do these 4 things. First is identify. Identify your natural gift. What do you do well that feels natural to you, but valuable to others? That's the first thing. Second is look at what you've actually lived through. Your pain may carry a pattern. Your struggle may contain a solution. Your story may hold a system. Look at what you've lived through. Third, turn your mastery into a framework, just like the framework that I shared with you. When I teach mastery, that's my framework. I looked into myself. I said, what have I mastered? I mastered proficiency. What do people come to me for? Passion. What do I love? Purpose. What has God created me? Why? Why does it matter? People. Who am I actually called to serve? What problem do I solve? What payoff do I help people achieve? What's my process, right? And I turn that into a framework. Don't just say I can help people. You got to share how, right? What's your process? What's your steps? What is your transformation, the payoff that people get if they choose to work with you? And then fourth is you package it into an offer, because if your gift is not organized, it cannot be multiplied. If your value is not packaged, it cannot be scaled. So this Easter weekend, my message is very, very simple. Let the false self die. Let the version of you that was built by fear die. Let the version of you that was built by pressure die. Let the version of you that was built by other people's expectations die. And let the real you rise, my friends. Let it rise, because true wealth is not found in becoming who the world told you to be. The true wealth is found in becoming who God created you to be. Muscle matters, management matters, mind matters, but mastery is where true wealth really lives. Mastery is where your gifts become valued. Mastery is where your value becomes assets. Mastery is where your assets create income. Mastery is where your life starts to align with truth. And when you live true to yourself in alignment with God's decision, you don't just make a living, you create a life. You don't merely just exist, you start living. You start living. So my friends, if this message speaks to you, drop mastery in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. Which level have you been playing at? Which level are you at in right now? Right now? Are you in muscle? Are you in management? Are you in mind? Or are you going to now, with what you're learning today, step into mastery? Let me know below in the comment section. So if you know you've been living more according to man's plans than God's plans, also drop rise in the comment sections, my friend, and start really living the life that you were truly meant to live, truly meant to have, truly meant to do. But most importantly, in order for you to have, in order for you to do, you must be who God created you to be. So move up, my friends, to the fourth level of mastery, where you then can help create transformation. Have an amazing rest of the week, and we will see you on the next video. Next week, I'm going to come live again. I'm going to share with you how to extract your mastery. We're going to identify what you're living, because that's true mastery. You're living transformation. You can't help other people transform if you have not transformed yourself. So what are you living? I'm going to show you how to extract it. I'm going to show you how to package it into an offer. We're going to show you how to put a value to it. I'm going to walk you through the process of it so that you can market and tell people about it. Tell the world that you exist, your mastery exists, you exist, so that you can sell it effortlessly, where people come to you, they see the transformation, they just want to buy from you. You don't have to be pushy. You don't have to feel salesy. You don't have to be sleazy selling at all. Serve hard, sell easy. We're going to walk you through that. And then lastly, we're going to show you how to teach it, how to wake up every single day and just be there for the people you're actually called to serve. That is mastery. We're going to bring your mastery to life. We're going to resurrect your mastery this weekend. We're going to rise next weekend by showing you how to take it to the marketplace. Stay blessed, my friends, and we will see you next week. Hello, C. Savan here. I hope you enjoyed and took a lot from this video. And if you are looking to live life on your terms, right, to be able to build a business also that allows you to live, to work, to earn from anywhere. If you're looking to delegate and automate with people, then we're inviting you to our Dream Life, Dream Business Challenge. And finally, if you took a lot from this video and you actually want more, please please comment your biggest takeaways from this particular video, and most importantly, subscribe. It's free to do so, so that this way you can be alerted every single time we actually drop a video for you, some more additional training. And again, our content will not let you down. Again, thank you very much for listening to us. Thank you very much for being here. We'll see you on the next video.